You as we begin a brand new week on this 11th day of August. And it is an exciting week for us and an exciting day for us because this is the official 75th anniversary of WSGW Radio. 75th anniversary on this August 11th. And we're going to take the opportunity to spend the week looking back, talking to people who were here and made this station what it is today. Quite a bit, as a matter of fact. And to give you an idea of the rundown, this morning, beginning at 9 o'clock, well, yeah, we're in the 9 o'clock hour already, we're going to hear from Cameron Knoll, who did the afternoon show for a number of years here at the station. And Cam talked to Elaine Netwick, who was our business manager for decades, and WSGW legend Fred Krell talking about the early years. That'll be coming up this morning during this hour. At 10 o'clock, a guy who was here for many, many years, almost 2 decades, and he was here during the time of major transitions in the sound of WSGW and what we have become today. Rick Belcher is going to join me at 10 o'clock, and like I said earlier about Rick, you can take the boy out of radio, but you can't take radio out of the boy. When I had called him and invited him to be on today, he said yes. I talked to him over the weekend. He spent the weekend doing show prep to be to be on the show with me this morning. I love it. Tuesday, Cam Knowles, Randy Howell will be chatting with us at 9 o'clock. At 10 o'clock, we'll have Brenda Wilson, and hopefully Christine Mahoney might be back with us. Wednesday, I talked to Terry Henney about his time at WSGW. He is the longest-serving employee. And also at 10 o'clock, a gal who I broadcast with for, 30-some-odd years, Sue Smith will be with me to talk about Listen to the Missus, and we'll have some fun. Thursday, Bill Anders and Bill Hewitt both come back and chat with us. And then at 10 o'clock, J.J. Bames will be with us. And Friday, we're going to have some open phones to remember what you remember about WSGW. And we'll have some other things going on. But we'll tell you more about that as we get closer to it. In doing this, it's brought back a lot of memories, and Charlie has been responsible for most of it. He started playing with audio that we had in archives. What's really funny, you have to understand this, folks. Everything is electronic today. We're surrounded by computers. We don't have any tape machines anymore. We don't have any cart machines, cassette decks, none of that. All our old audio is on quarter-inch tape, cassettes, carts. So they had to scrounge up a reel-to-reel tape recorder to put in here so we could try and play some of the tapes. Well, they put it in, find out it only runs at high speed and has no reverse. So we have to figure out how to get around that. We did find a cassette machine. Charlie's been using cassettes a lot. But everything is in computers today, you know. All right, so we're going to begin by hearing from Cam Knowles, who was on afternoons here on WSGW for many, many, many years. And he sent us some audio of things that he had done. This first segment is with Elaine Netwick and Fred Krell.
Elaine Mannion Netwick and Fred Krell remember the struggle to get WSGW on the air.
It was mass confusion to begin with. The towers were all in place, and the building was rented downtown, Saginaw Mason Building. Everything was rolling along, and the furniture was coming in after the building got cleaned up, of course. We were all set to go on the air in April of 1950, and the towers, some problem with the FCC and engineering, and everything went on hold. So that was quite a loss and quite a disappointment to have that many months that you had people around and you didn't want to lose your sales staff, and so it was pretty hectic seeing 6 towers up there with lights on and nothing happening. It was bad.
A 6-tower array is pretty difficult, still difficult to manage, although it's easier now with automation.
Mm-hmm.
But They were doing such things as lighting up the neighboring houses without turning on switches.
Oops.
And mesmerizing cattle.
No.
They walk up to the fence and they just kind of stand there, wouldn't do anything.
Stray voltage.
It's exactly right.
Yeah. Elaine retired in 1990 as WSGW's business manager. Fred Krell joined WSGW in 1952 and spent a third of a century of mornings on WSGW, pioneering the Helpful Hints and Recipe program, now known as Listen to the
We
Missus.
started Listen to the Missus as kind of a filler for an hour. What would you do for an hour? And we started as a recipe, a basis, and it just took off. We started a half hour, had to expand it to an hour within a week. And I guess, by God, it's still going on.
Fred didn't join WSGW until 2 years after the sign-on, but he remembers the role that Elaine Mannion Netwig and others played in getting the station on the air. Elaine was here when I started here in 1989 and was just a bulwark of this radio station.
Yes, as a matter of fact, giving all due credit to her, she ran it. Bob Phillips was an inspirational guy, flighty guy, all over the place all at once. And Elaine was the rock. She got things done and did them very well.
Here, Elaine and Fred remember the others, the names, the faces who signed on WSGW on August 11th, 1950, in the early morning.
Frank Wells, Cameron, I could go on for hours about Frank Wells. He was probably just a news person. I wish you could have known him because you two would relate very well to one another. He came from Detroit area. He had been with, I want to say, Detroit Free Press for many years, and he wanted to come up to this area. And as a matter of fact, he came here, I believe, because he was getting married. And he had been in the area, and he joined the staff. And I'm telling you, he was a person that he knew everybody, and he had, as the old saying, a real nose for news. I couldn't help thinking about the other day when they mentioned at the City Hall where they were having trouble with the returns coming through. He would take his old typewriter, and I'd have an adding machine and broadcast. Bob Phillips was he was a salesman above all things, and he was someone that was interested in the community, and he was always looking for something that was exciting he could associate it with the station. He put his heart and soul into the station.
Bill Frink, sports department.
Bill was a bright sports guy, into all sports, could quote statistics, and was a very interesting person to have, even in a sports show or in the booth.
Uncle Don Andrews. He was in the area for a long time, and he was into country music, and he did live broadcasts where he would have disc jockey shows. He had a tremendous following. And then he had a Saturday night show that he hosted for a long time. And I remember we had to be very careful because we had a few problems where if you, going downtown Saginaw, the Mason building, we had the third and fourth floor, but there was the building, as you would go east, only went to the third floor. So you'd get a lot of these people that would come up the elevator in the old building if someone happened to leave the door unlocked, and they'd be out on the roof. Patricia Elliott.
I remember Pat. Tall, rangy sort of girl, very talented. She wrote copy.
Eugene Ellerman. He was a salesperson, a cigar-smoking salesperson, and quite a character. Mary Krause was our receptionist, a lovely girl, and I can always remember about Gene Ellerman. He had this big cigar. You know, in those days, people didn't have the no smoking signs up, and Mary could not stand cigar smoke, and he knew that, and he would just, every chance he could get, he'd go through there and just, you know, some big cigar puffs. Vince Picard was a very colorful person. His background, his family were known as the Flying Picards in the days of the circus. Vince sold the 8 o'clock news to First Savings and Loan, and they were on the air for the opening day, and they went on for years. I can't tell you how many years that they kept that 8 o'clock slot. Floyd Clark started out being our program director, And after we were on the air for I don't know how long a period of time, he got married, and I remember there was a period of time that they did a broadcast. Somebody used to bring back some memories to me that I've forgotten about. They did a broadcast from their home in the mornings, and it was, kind of a husband and wife having breakfast coffee and that type of thing, and a chit-chat and talking about the weather and, what they were going to do for their day. And I think there were some call-ins, too, from people that would call, and they'd chat with them.
Former WSGW business manager Elaine Mannion Netwig remembers the excitement the day it all began.
Oh, yes. Early morning sign-on, and it was sort of I can still remember, it was sort of a drizzly day, and of course many of the dignitaries of Saginaw, prominent businessmen, the mayor, and any number of people. I know my husband and I were listening for it, and then of course I took off to the station. It was chaotic, and I think the whole downtown area just participated so much because, that was a new thing. We did have competition in the area, obviously, but right there on the corner of Genesee and Washington, we were right in the middle of the whole thing, and the merchants and it was wonderful. I just it's something you don't forget.
August 11th, 1950, WSGW's broadcast debut brought to the number 3 local radio stations in the Saginaw area. Retired morning man and WSGW legend Fred Krell remembers that the station had an uphill climb, one that eventually paid off with big results.
They were just getting started, WSGW, and the odds were tough. So it was a struggle to get started. So what we did at that time was kind of go through the day, taking some stuff from the Mutual broadcasting system. We had nothing to go on. Our numbers were way down at the bottom, and also we went the highest that anyone has ever gone. At one time, believe it or not, we had a share of 33, which is, you got everybody.
WSGW's half-page ad in the Saginaw News from August 11th, 1950, calls the radio station the strongest voice in the Saginaw Valley and the most powerful day-night station in the area. The station manager, Bob Phillips, also made the following pledge. WSGW hereby pledges to serve the best interests of its listeners by broadcasting the finest programming relative to public service, entertainment, news, sports, agriculture, religion, and special events. Former WSGW business manager Elaine Mannion Netwig says it was quite a claim, starting with nothing more than a piece of paper and an office building.
Well, I learned about that there would be a new facility coming to Saginaw, and then everything was kind of on hold. Mr. Booth really went all out attempting to secure the 790 frequency on the dial, which obviously he was successful doing, and you're still enjoying that privilege. Well, at that time, the call letters were just still being decided upon, and Mr. Booth chose them because he liked the idea, Saginaw sort of being an abbreviation, and, of course, the W being necessary.
We'll have more with the Cameron Knowles interviews during the 50th anniversary. After these notes, let me take a moment to talk about Quick Lane Freeland and McDonald Ford side by side. It's been a tough year if you have allergies. We all know that. And Quick Lane in Freeland has an answer to keep you healthy while driving. It's called FrigiFresh. It's a hospital-grade disinfectant for your car. It's put in the air conditioning system. And to learn more about it, here's John from Quick Lane Freeland.
FrigiFresh. Hi.
I took over the very next day, and there were 3 people, as you know, this is such a people business. There were 3 people who I think were kind of the bridge between maybe the first 25 years of WSGW and then the next 25. And one was a lady I'm sure you will be talking to, Elaine Netwig, who Elaine was really the mother hen of the radio station, and we all said without her, the building would collapse. Elaine was really the person who held everything together, and that was true for 40 years. She worked with Bob Phillips, and they worked for, 6 or 8 months prior to SGW going on the air. But Elaine was there until she retired in 1990. There was a young fella named Terry Henney who, when I arrived, was the sales manager, and he became a farm director and has become a beloved person about SGW. He's probably best known for his little bit in depth that he gives to the weather every day. and the name that, of course, really jumps out is Fred Krell. Fred, when I arrived, was the predominant personality. And doing my own little focus groups and in-store interviews and so forth, I quickly realized that WSGW was known primarily as the Fred Krell station. I would mention the call letters to people, and they'd say, the Fred Krell station, and I'd ask them, where is it on the dial? And so often they didn't know. It was just they knew that Fred Krell was there.
Retired station manager John Casey remembers the WSGW move through format changes.
SGW, yes, was what was known as a full-service format. Lots of news and information, lots of national and local sporting events, baseball, football, but all woven together with DJs playing records. And going back to my early days at SGW, I think it was my second year there, we hired a guy named Art Lewis. Art had been at the station for a year or two prior to my coming. Then he left for work at TV 25. He was a part-timer for us for a while before we made him a full-timer. And Art, I remember, always wanted to play cuts from comedy albums and dialogue clips from old movie soundtracks. I think even then Art liked talk better than music. In the 50s and 60s, SGW was mostly big bands and easy listening stuff, but over the years we evolved into the kind of thing that today would be called soft adult contemporary. But as the years went on, we played fewer and fewer songs, but still it was the melange that kept everything else together, and we were still playing at least a few hours of music until almost exactly 10 years ago. We stopped playing music in 1990.
Throughout the formats, former WSGW morning man and founder of Listen to the Missus, Fred Krell, says that he found a single quality important when he, working as a manager, was looking for on-air radio talent.
I had program duties. Among them was keeping announcers on the straight and narrow. Well, you looked for a type of person who was not straight-laced and right down the center either, because they weren't worth a damn. And you got someone with a little inspiration, and then you had to keep a stiff rein on them to keep them in sight.
And that concludes that segment of the interview that Cam did. There is one more segment coming up after the break, and talks about a number of the personalities here at the station. We'll have that for you after these notes.
Before you hit the road this
seconds count. You have a choice.
ordinary
Or extraordinary at Covenant Healthcare.
All right, we're back with you here on the Art Lewis Show for this Monday morning of the week. We are celebrating our 75th anniversary of WSGW. Lots of things to do during the week, lots of people to talk to, and we are continuing now with something that Cameron Knowles, who was here for many years back in the early days, and in 2000 or 25 years ago, he recorded a program about the 50th anniversary and had all of us make some comments about 1950. And this segment will give you an idea of what was on our minds when we talked to Cam. You'll hear a number of voices from the past.
Yes, I'll always be.
I'm Terry Lenz, and I've been with WSGW since Mastodons walked the earth. I'm Terry Lenz, and I've been with WSGW since November 15th, 1978. In sports, on August 11th, 1950, more than 100 boats were expected in town for a series of races sponsored by the Saginaw Club. The boats would race in 5 classes, 2 heats each. The Saginaw Bears were cellar dwellers in the Central Baseball League despite an 8-7 win against the Grand Rapids Jets in 11 innings. The Flint Arrows lead the league by 1/2 game after splitting a doubleheader in Dayton. In Major League Baseball, the Detroit Tigers took a 3.5-game lead over Cleveland into a weekend series with the St. Louis Browns. The series began with a twilight doubleheader. The Tigers were coming off a 10-6 victory over the Chicago White Sox. The second game of the doubleheader ended 1-1 after the game was called in the 7th inning because of darkness.
I'm Terry Henney, and I've been at WSGW since June 14th, 1971. The weather for August the 11th, 1950, called for partly cloudy and cooler. Fair into the night with a light frost, if you can believe that, expected in the exposed places. Low of 45. High on Saturday, August the 12th, 1950, 73 degrees, and we had no rain over the last 24 hours. The Secretary of Agriculture was coming to Michigan to talk about the National Farm Plan. His proposal included farm price supports. The Secretary raised a lot of eyebrows in Minnesota earlier in the year when he brought the federal farm experts in to address the folks in Minnesota at taxpayer expense to the tune of about $48,000.
I'm Sue Smith, and I've been at WSGW since 1983. And some of the films at Saginaw area theaters on August 11th, 1950 included 3 Little Words at the Temple, Night in the City, Dynamite Pass and Guadalcanal Diary at the Mecca, The Golden Stallion and Baghdad at the Daniel, Customs Agent and Love Happy at the Michigan, Beau Geste and Lives of a Bengal Lancer at the Wolverine, Cinderella and Part of My Sarong at the Twilight Drive-In, and the Franklin presented Caged, the film that tells and tells and tells the whole story of the shameful torments of a girl behind prison bars. The screaming new sensation.
I'm Bill Hewitt, and I've been with WSGW since November of 1980. And according to Pace Music Company of Saginaw, the most popular songs on August 11th, 1950 were Gordon Jenkins' Goodnight Irene, Mona Lisa by Nat King Cole, I Still Get a Thrill by Dick Haymes, The Third Man Theme by Guy Lombardo, Mambo Jumbo by Freddie Martin, Hoop-De-Doo by Perry Como, and Sentimental Me by the Ames Brothers.
I'm Dave Maurer, and I've been with WSGW since Thanksgiving of 1979. In the news, August 11th, 1950, the Army sent out a new call for reserve officers and medics to report for active duty by October 6th for up to 21 months of service. The U.S. East Coast base in Pohang, Korea fell to North Koreans, while the 8th Army counter attacked a communist base in Sinju in the north. British statesman Winston Churchill told an audience in Strasbourg, France, that a united European army was needed to defend the West against Russia. Churchill said the most effective deterrent to war would be American superiority in atomic weapons, plus Russia's success in building an empire without committing herself to war. American automobile production may be cut by 10% during 1951 by the Guns and Butter Defense Program, according to General Motors President C.E. Wilson. Wilson said that the auto industry was going ahead with business despite the possibility of steel being redirected toward the war effort in Korea.
I'm John Hall, and I've been with WSGW since 1984. In the news, August 11th, 1950. Police apprehended 2 youths aged 13 and 14 for stealing a half bag of cement from Clinkston's garage on South 15th and Saginaw. Police reported that the youthful offenders wanted to use the cement to make bases for a baseball diamond. They were ordered to report to the Police Crime Prevention Division. The Federal Mogul Company was locked in a fight with UAW-CIO strikers as their walkout entered its 10th month. Union and management traded barbs as the possibility of war contracts loomed on the horizon. The State Water Resources Commission planned action against Sebewaing and Bay City. Bay City failed to explain why it missed deadlines to install water treatment facilities. Sebewaing was expected to set a date for starting construction of a water treatment plant.
I'm Art Lewis, and I've been with WSGW since 1974. Some of the advertisers welcoming WSGW to the airwaves August 11th, 1950, were the R.P. Lewis Company, 128 North Washington, exclusive providers of Shaw Walker office equipment to WSGW. The Saginaw Paint Manufacturing Company, 344 West Genesee, where Sammy Savoll says, "We're glad to have furnished the quality Saginaw paint for the studios, offices, and transmitter of station WSGW." Barrett Advertising Company, Northeastern Michigan's oldest and largest exclusive sign shop, 2317 Holland, providing all the sign work for Saginaw's newest station, WSGW. W.S. Qualman, general contractor for the transmitter station of WSGW. Boyce Bird & Son, 405 Davenport, painting and decorating contractor for the station and transmitter of WSGW. Saginaw Floor Covering, 201 North Jefferson Avenue, supplier of floor coverings for WSGW. Koski Electrical Company, 1415 North Ames, for all the electrical work at the new studios of WSGW.
I'm Charlie Rood, and I've been with WSGW since 1990. Some of the advertisers welcoming WSGW to the airwaves August 11th, 1950 were Hertzberg and Byron Incorporated, 902 East Genesee, home of the Bard oil-fired air conditioner supplied exclusively for the new studios of WSGW. Markey Elliott House of Furniture, 1400 West Genesee, suppliers of the luxurious carpeting and red plastic chairs and folding chairs in WSGW's new studio. Atherton Electric, 1631 Brockway, furnished WSGW's modern electrical fixtures. And Glad Key Realty Company welcomed their newest tenants, radio station WSGW, to their new home at 200 Mason Building, corner of East Genesee and Washington Avenues.
On August 11th, 1950, to August 11th, the year 2000, those of us here at WSGW are building on those who came before. 50 years of broadcasting and community service. Thank you, Saginaw. Thank you, Tri-Cities. Your support and our interaction made WSGW the station it was, the station that it is, and with a little luck, the station it will continue to be for the next 50 years. I'm Cameron Knowles. Thanks for listening to WSGW the first 50 years.
And our thanks to Cameron Knowles for providing that audio today, looking back at the 50th anniversary. We'll take a break, come back, and finish up the hour.
The kids are heading back.
On WSGW, the Art Lewis Show on this August 11th as we celebrate the 75th anniversary of WSGW. 75 years. August 11th, 1950 was the date, and we are so happy that the station is still around doing what it does best, and that's informing and entertaining you. Over the years, there have been a lot of changes to WSGW, and a gentleman who lived through many of those changes is going to be my guest next hour, Rick Belcher. Rick was program and operations manager for many years here, and he will be along. He's also brought some audio memories with him, and we'll talk to him right after the news. We'll take our last break and be back to close out.
Every great story.
Rick Belcher will be with me in the next hour. Tomorrow, Cam Knowles and Randy Howell during the 9 o'clock hour. Tuesday, Brenda Wilson and Christine Mahoney hopefully will be with us during the 10 o'clock hour. Wednesday, I get to chat with Terry Henney, our, of course, longest-running employee here. And at 10 o'clock, Sue Smith will be back to join me as we talk Listen to the Missus. Thursday at 9 a.m., Bill Anders and Bill Hewitt will be along, and Thursday at 10 a.m., J.J. Bames will be here to chat with us. J.J., of course, is still here because he does Saginaw Valley State University football. Friday, we will let you know, but we'll have some open phones on Friday for you to join in. All of that is going to be ahead here on WSGW as we celebrate our 75th anniversary. And, you know, it's interesting, and I'm looking forward to next hour because my guest, Rick, has been here and was in some ways responsible for a lot of the changes that happened to WSGW that we still enjoy today. So we'll talk about that with him, all coming up next hour. Before we get there, we'll have news from CBS, which has been around for a long time with WSGW. And then we'll have the local report. Michael Purchase in the WSGW